Hi guys, how's it going? My name's Helena. Welcome back to the channel. It feels so good to say that. It's been so long since I've been out here in front of the camera. And what a way to start off the channel again with the one and only Nico from Nebula Photos on YouTube. Hi Nico, how are you?
Hi Helena, I'm really good. I'm so glad to be here in your native country, and it's quite surreal to see you in the flesh.
I know, it's the first thing I said when Nico came through the gate was, oh my god, he's real. I'll start off with a really broad question, just so that like everyone can get a feel for your astrophotography journey. So how did you get into astrophotography? You've probably been asked this like 1,001 times.
That's fine. I always like sharing it. So I've always been a camera nut from a young age. I started with a 110 film camera, which was like cartridge film. Then I got really into video in high school, making movies. As you imagine, this has led well into YouTube. Yeah. So then I went to school and I studied filmmaking, and I went back to film and did like actual filmmaking on film. Learned like a lot there in college. Then decided I wanted to be a librarian. Got into that.
Awesome. Okay.
Really sort of lost touch with cameras for a little while I was like in grad school and all of that. But then my first job out of library school was combining my interests. So I was a librarian teaching people how to use cameras.
Nice, okay.
And that's when I got really into Photoshop because everyone wanted to learn Photoshop. So I had to like really master it so I could teach it. And then my interest in photography just kept going. I was really into like the technical kinds of photography. So that led to time lapse.
Okay.
And I got more and more into like doing like time lapses of the clouds. I saw online, I wish I knew the names, but people doing time lapses of the aurora. Like the aurora time lapses were just astounding to me. And I was like, I got to do that. And so I looked up all the different places where you can do aurora time lapse, and it looked like the best place was Iceland. So I saved up. We went there, and we were really lucky because on 2 nights we were able to see the full show of like the aurora. And I was able to do the time lapses. When I got back, I put the time lapses together, and then wasn't really thinking about anything else. I was just thinking about making those videos. But then for some reason I decided, well, I'm going to take one frame, which is a photo, out of the time lapse and really bring it up and edit it, and like I've never done before. And I was just amazed by all the colors that came out.
As if it was like a single astrophoto of the aurora.
Like exactly, like a single astrophoto. So I didn't know the word astrophotography. I didn't know anything about it. But when I brought out this like single photo of the aurora and saw the stars, I was just amazed by it. And I was so excited about that photo that then I started doing Milky Way and getting into it through camera and camera lenses on a tripod, no tracker. I did that for about a year and a half before I got my first tracker, which was the AstroTrack, which is actually a UK system. It's this really weird thing. You have to rewind it every like 90 minutes, so it's not very convenient. But it worked really well. And so even though like on YouTube I'm known for doing the untracked stuff, I didn't know that you could do untracked deep sky. So I got immediately into a tracker. I set it up in my backyard. I got Orion Nebula, like everyone's first target, and then from there on I was just hooked. And so that's my sort of journey from the beginning of being interested in cameras as a kid to getting hooked into deep sky.
I really love that. That links on really well to the next question, because it sounds like you've sort of like without knowing started with wide field astrophotography, like the Milky Way and the aurora. And I suppose that's always what I say to beginners, like start off wide because tracking's so much more forgiving. So you've talked a little bit about like what gear you used like when you first started out. Is there any equipment that you'd recommend, like pretending I'm a total beginner, to me if I was just starting astrophotography with no knowledge of it whatsoever?
These days my advice is different from even like a few years ago, because a few years ago I would have said DSLR and lens. These days I'd say even if you have a new smartphone, if you can get to a dark sky with a new smartphone, one of these ones that can do like the pro mode or the nightscape mode, can't remember what it's called, night mode, then you can get Milky Way shots with just a phone today and a tripod.
It's crazy what the Apple iPhones can do. Like I've seen some time lapses of them on Instagram, on like Instagram Reels, of people showing tutorials through iPhone photography, and I'm like, even when I started astrophotography 3 years ago, phones could not do that.
Yeah. The one thing, a lot of people who have high-end phones still don't have the tripod for it, but you can get these like clamps, you know, that go over the phone and a tripod, and that would help a lot because then you're more able to point it and keep it stable.
Yep.
And then the other thing I would suggest if you're starting with the phone is learn about like either putting it on the timer or some of the phones have like a clap to take a picture.
Oh, okay.
That makes it really
Yeah,
easy.
they do, don't they, actually? I forgot about that.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I think I'd start with a phone, but if you already have something like a DSLR or point and shoot camera, that'd probably be even better because the sensor is bigger, so it's going to be better at picking up low light. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you talked a little bit about Untrack just there as well, and you have some like amazing tutorials on your channel on Untracked astrophotography, so in depth, so in detail, goes over everything that you need to know. I highly doubt there'll be anyone that hasn't checked out watching, but if you haven't checked out Nico's videos, please do. I'll leave a link in the description. But would you say that a star tracker then is not necessary for someone that wants to start out astrophotography when talking about like a phone and a tripod?
No, yeah, a tracker isn't necessary to start, but really the only good targets for a phone and a tripod are Milky Way, Aurora, maybe just, you know, if you're okay with just the landscape and a starry sky, that can also be a cool photo, even if the Milky Way's not up.
No, I know, because I feel like that's like a really common misconception that you have to start with the biggest and best gear. And I think that people often think that even for nightscapes and landscapes that you have to have a tracker, and that's absolutely not the case. I started with my camera, and I think it was a Canon 60D that I started with, which is a really popular camera still in astrophotography now to modify, and I started with that and a tripod. So you can really go anywhere nowadays with gear when it comes to astrophotography when you're doing widescapes without tracking. So taking this into account, do you have like a #1 go-to camera, maybe one that you've used in the past, that you'd recommend for those starting astrophotography, steering away from phones now when we're talking about DSLR cameras?
If you're going to be buying one specifically for astrophotography, you can look used and get a modified one, often as cheap used or just a little bit more than a used regular one. So if you're buying one new, maybe look for a modified one. And what that means is they've already done the work to make it more sensitive for astrophotography, especially those red nebulae. So I think a Canon or Nikon modified DSLR would be great.
So going to lenses now, do you have a #1 all-rounder lens that you would recommend for someone to attach to that modified camera? I know it's a really
I have so many
question.
lenses.
I know. If someone asked me that, I'd freak out.
But one thing I will say is for astrophotography without a tracker, you want a fast lens. So you can use a slow lens, meaning the f number is large. Like I recently did a video where I was using an f11 lens. Yeah. You can't do that without the tracker. You need the tracker so you can take the long exposures.
Absolutely.
Untracked, you really want a fast lens, meaning like f4, f2.8, even faster, like f2 is even better. Yeah. Of course, these fast lenses get more expensive, and then if you get a fast lens that's cheap, usually it's not very good. You know, the stars will look very like big lines. You get a lot of distortion basically with the fast lenses that are cheap. So lenses are hard because the really good lenses, like you're using a Sigma there, I think.
24.
Yeah, those are pretty expensive. Yep. They can be just as expensive sometimes as the camera used.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In terms of focal length for Untracked, what I've mostly shown on my channel is with a 200 millimeter lens. Yeah. That means you're limited in exposure, but it also means you're closer in on like nebulae and galaxies and stuff like that. 200 to 300 millimeters is basically like the upper limit of what I suggest for Untracked, because then you can still do like 1 second exposures. Yeah. But anywhere down is fine. So you can get a 135, you can get an 85, you can use a 24 to 70. Yeah. all of these can work for astrophotography. You're just going to get a different kind of picture, right? If you're at 24 millimeters, that's a wide nightscape kind of picture.
Yeah. Your Untracked Orion was amazing, actually, when you did the single 1 second exposures on Orion. You've got to check that out, guys. I'm sure you'll have seen it, but if you haven't, you've got to check that out, and it just shows you what you can do without a tracker. This is another big question. I feel like my questions are quite like, so camera settings will obviously vary dependent on like the gear that you're using, what you're shooting, your light pollution level. Like there's a lot of different factors. But to give like beginners like a kickstart out there, are there like some solid, say we're doing 200 millimeters on Orion, are there any solid camera settings that you'd recommend to them to get started on the field when they're out there?
First, set your camera to manual. Then there's like a little dial that's on the top, and you're gonna move that until the F number is the smallest. So that's the first thing. Manual, set the F number the smallest. That means the lens is wide open, letting in the most amount of light. Then your shutter speed, which is another dial somewhere in the top, I think, you're going to want to set for 200 millimeters to about 1 second. That means that in 1 second, the Earth doesn't rotate enough so that the stars streak. Basically. So that's the two things. And then the last piece in exposure is ISO. And ISO is what I'd vary depending on your light pollution level. So if you are at a dark site, you could raise the ISO up to 3200, 6400. If you're more light polluted like Bortle 6, you might have to bring it down to 800. I wouldn't go lower than 800 usually on Canon at least. So somewhere between 800 and 3200 is usually good for ISO.
So now that they've kind of got their equipment, they've got it set up, it's kind of like a camera on a tripod, they're in a semi-dark location and they know their camera settings. Considering that even if you're using a tracker like the Skywatcher Star Adventure, you can't go to the target unless you're using the new one. What is your favourite method to kind of find these targets in the night sky?
I use a hybrid method, meaning I don't just use one method to find things in the night sky. I use a couple different things. The first one is to definitely, before you go out, get a planetarium app on your phone. So popular ones are like Stellarium. I'm just looking at some other ones here. Sky Map, Sky, SKEYE, and there's usually free versions, so you don't need a paid one. And what that will do is it'll give you, for your actual location at that time, it'll give you a full map of the sky with all the constellations and a search. And then you can search for what you're looking for. So you can usually just type in like the English name, like Andromeda Galaxy, and type enter, and then it will actually have a little arrow on the screen, and you just move it and that gives you the general direction where it is. And if you zoom in, you can see sort of the star patterns around it too.
I feel like that's also quite valuable because they're getting to know the night sky quite well. Like they're killing two birds with one stone. They're getting to know the night sky and they're finding their target at the same time.
Yep. The last thing I do is, I learned this from Arcturus Astro on Instagram, Griffin. There's a website called nova.astrometry.net that I already knew about. It plate solves your image. So what that does is it tells you exactly where you're pointed after you take a picture. What I learned from Griffin is you can actually just take a snapshot with your phone of your screen on your camera and then immediately go to that website and upload the picture, and it plate solves it, and it's such a good plate solver that it can actually tell you just on a picture of the back of your screen where you're pointed. And then once you know where you're pointed, you can sort of know where to go next.
That's amazing. Oh my God, I've learned something today. Those were some great answers to some very difficult questions that I gave Nico today. Gave him a challenge. Thank you so much for coming on the channel and answering all the questions. It's been absolutely amazing to meet you in person. I'm sure you guys will see us in a couple more things together. We're planning to do a couple more things today, but this is hopefully one of many visits. Thank you so much for joining me.
It was my pleasure, Helena. Thanks for having me.